Today, live on Restoring Hope, Geral Blanchard, who is a psychotherapist, but also an expert on trauma. Fascinating man. He's with us live today.
Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope. Open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Restoring Hope live on the Truth Network. 99.3, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you for your patience this last week as I took the week off. I had two deaths, two people very close to me. Two died on the same day. And so I had to balance out a lot of emotion last week, and so I just asked Chris if he'd run the best of. Of course, he doesn't have any shows under best of, just good enough. But I know we ran Restoring Hope several times, and I thank you for the Truth Network and everything they do for me. And I'll share with you some observations in the last segment today of two very stark and different funerals, both leaving different messages. One done and one very undone. Lila Stafford, my co-host, along with Bob Monserrate, and you have a very special guest today, and I'll let you introduce him.
Okay. I have a friend whose name is Geral Blanchard, and I have been asking him for a year to come on this show because I love everything that he is about. He thinks outside the box, which I love because when you get into this business that I'm in as a therapist, everybody seems to do things the same way. You know, if you have anxiety, you go to this doctor and they'll give you anxiety pills. You have depression, go to this doctor and they'll give you some pills. And what happens when they come to treatment is some of that stuff isn't working for them anymore. And you're just at a loss. It's like, well, now what do I do? Because I sent them to some experts and it's not working for them. So coincidentally, I ran into Geral. It was just one of those God things. That a friend of mine left his card at my house one day, and I needed to call somebody like him. And I found his card in my couch and called him, and it was like a miracle. And he helped this person tremendously, and I could see firsthand what he was doing. And it was not like anything else that I've seen with any other therapist in town. And I was so taken by that, and I'm just so interested in how he treats people. And he treats the whole person, and he loves studying people. He studies people from all over the world and how they heal. And I'm very interested in that. And so congratulations, I'm finally coming to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
It's nice to have you here.
You're flattering me. So.
Okay, so one of your approaches to you work with addictions. That's my thing that I do, but you also work outside of that. But what makes your approach to healing and working with addictions different than other people, than other therapists?
Well, I certainly take the word holistic seriously and like to look at people on all aspects of the body, the mind, the spirit, in depth in each one. And I'm not big on generic solutions for complicated individual problems. I usually have a lot of adjunctive or additional advice and help I'll offer people. But one of the things that I suppose makes me somewhat unique is that I've been influenced a good deal by indigenous cultures around the world because I've studied with shamans, medicine people in Africa and South America, Central America, taking a look at how healing has been done over the last 40,000 years. Of history in the shamanic world, as well as history in the West and the kind of contemporary healing we do today. And what I realize is we've lost some of the wisdom of the ancient traditions. And so I like to bring that forward and incorporate it with what we're doing today. So I like to involve medicine very much in the work I do, but that medicine might be assisting me from the Mayo Clinic, or it might be from Zimbabwe. One doesn't know. And so
that's what I like about you is because it's not like saying everything that we do is wrong. It's saying let's incorporate what I know and what you know, or what what our doctors now know. It's not saying one is better than the other. It's just saying for this particular thing, I think we need to bring in.
I'm trying to bridge the best from both worlds, but not forget history. That's one thing we as a people have done a poor job of, and that is remembering our history and what it can teach us.
Yeah.
So before all the shamans and medicine people of the earth are gone, I saw it as one of my goals is to meet as many of the most traditional types of healers I could around the world and learn from them. So I've been busy traveling.
Geral, when you use the term medicine people, is that a medicine man or medicine woman that we might see in a movie or something like that?
Right. Medicine men, medicine women.
Okay.
Some people call them shamans. They have different names from different countries. Curanderismo, practitioners from Mexico, the folk healers. But people who are steeped in ancient traditions, who are devoid of pharmacies, hospitals, surgeons, and scalpels, they have to figure out how to heal a broad range of problems with what the land provides them. And we may get into it today, but recently I've brought home some ideas from West Africa that I've watched being put into practice in Vancouver, British Columbia, in healing addictions. And
I can't wait to talk about that. It is so cool. We'll cover that later today, but it is, oh my gosh, it is so cool.
I'd like to know where this passion comes from. Go back as a child, and what was it that sparked you into this area of medicine, healing, psychotherapy, etc.?
I think it was my undergraduate studies in anthropology.
Okay.
Most of my collegiate classes bored me to tears. And then I met an absolutely crazy professor of anthropology, and he gave me freedom to travel and explore and come home and write reports and get credit for it. So I was a loose cannon and a bit of a maverick under the mentorship of a loose cannon and a maverick.
Uh-huh.
And I had the freedom to travel. And so I started doing that, and it's never stopped. Even though I did get channeled into the field of psychology along the way, the anthropological roots have really stayed with me. I love the diversity I encounter from country to country, and wisdom beyond textbooks, wisdom that people have of nature and plant medicines, with so many plants, so many medicines that I couldn't ever think of memorizing them all, let alone using them.
Yeah, by the way, let's give you his name again and some spelling, and you can look up. He's got 3 books out there, Ancient Ways, Ancient Ethics, and Transcending Trauma, which is a book I look forward to reading. Again, his name is Geral.
There's no D.
I was just going to say that. Last name, Blanchard. So it's Geral Blanchard, and you can get him at blanchardgeral@gmail.com. We'll have that information as the day goes on. He offices out of the Friends House at 42nd and Grand here in downtown Des Moines.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to you healing people in a holistic way with their mind, body, and spirit. And we have so many people that come to Powell that need help in all of those areas. And I would say anxiety and depression, PTSD, those are bipolar. A lot of those things are parts of the mind that need to be healed before they can really get help. Do you want to talk about how you try to heal the mind?
Well, there are, in psychology, they would say there are comorbid disorders, a package deal. In other words, there may not be just one diagnosis. But it's hard to imagine anyone who's seeking treatment for chemical dependency who doesn't have a depression, attendant anxiety, and probably some unresolved trauma issues. So if we're really going to help them get sober and stay sober, we have to put some focus and attention on those catalytic forces that are propelling them in search of pain relievers. We got to find out what is the pain that they're seeking relief for. And typically what I encountered in my profession is that we were heavily influenced for years by big pharma, big pharmacy. We had a pill for all occasions, but almost every problem got an SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which we now know when it comes to treating depression are no better than a placebo.
Right.
But marketing made a lot of money for a lot of drug companies along the way, and I felt I was part and parcel of that snake oil salesman show. I didn't know it at the time. So I went in search of other remedies from around the world for depression and for anxiety and even for trauma. And I realized that there's so many plant medicines that can help people calm down, sleep, deal with anxiety, and ideally some calmatives that, unlike our sedatives that we give to people these days, the tranquilizers we tend to prescribe, we now have plant medicines that can calm people, but they can still maintain their alertness.
Yeah.
So they don't have a bottle that says don't operate a vehicle or because you're going to be mentally impaired. We can treat anxiety with very safe, benign natural remedies, and now we can treat depression in the same way. There are literally over-the-counter remedies that are legitimate and effective in treating depression. And if I'm dealing with someone with an addiction, the last thing I want to give them is an addictive tranquilizer.
Yes.
Or any addictive drug whatsoever. Even if it's for ADD, attention deficit disorder. A lot of people are taking addictive drugs for that, and everyone is being diagnosed in that way of late. So I found natural remedies, and I find them very effective. But then I blend modern elements as well. I use alpha stimulation.
Oh, this is so cool. And I've seen him do it on people, and it is like, well, like we've always said, these people want a magic pill. This is as close to a magic pill, I think, for people with anxiety. It is. Explain how it works.
Well, I should start with the new Serenity Prayer, which is God give me a magic bullet pill to take away my addiction to magic bullet solutions. Because that's how a lot of, especially in our culture. But I do have a machine, an Alpha Stim microcurrent brain stimulator, that can take someone who's on the verge of a panic attack or in a panic attack and virtually eliminate their anxiety within 20 minutes. It sounds too good to be true. It sounds like I work for the company. I don't. That markets these. It's just very, very effective. But it also eliminates depression momentarily as well. And for people who are in crisis, maybe suicidal, it's important that I give them just a subtle current of electricity through the earlobes. This is not to be confused with electroconvulsive therapy or anything like that. This is just a 0.5 hertz impulse, alpha waves going through the brain. And alpha waves are what we experience when we're calm, when we're meditating. And after 20 minutes of this treatment, you can see an entirely different person sitting in front of you. And sometimes their facial contours and look will change. They will drop 10 or 15 years in that span of a few minutes, which leaves everyone in shock and awe who is witnessing it. So I like to have people witness that treatment.
Yeah.
Because it almost sounds made up when the patient walks out of there feeling so differently.
Is that machine portable?
Yes.
It looks like a phone, like your little phone that,
So you
cell
could
phone.
bring it here and put it on Lila, and we could watch how it works.
Sure. And you could play with the electrical impulses.
Do you love me, Coco? Coco, do you love me? Do you love me a little more?
But how long does that treatment last?
That's a good question. It varies from person to person. For some people, it's almost as if, and these are the great cases, it's almost like hitting a reset button for them, where they break out of anxiety and for the first time ever ask the question, is this what it feels like to not have anxiety? And they can sometimes let go of it and sort of hold on to it gently. But most people say they get relief for several days. And then we come back and they re-up for another treatment, or they go home with a machine, no profit involved. Just have them treat themselves at home.
Geral Blanchard is our guest today, BlanchardGeral @gmail.com. He works out of the Friend's House at 42nd and Grand, and we'll continue to talk to him more about alternative treatments, not only for addiction, but for anxiety. And I want to hear more about this trauma stuff, especially the emotional trauma that we feel after being emotionally attacked day after day after day with people we love in our lives. It's coming up next, live on Restoring Hope Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
21 minutes after the hour, we want to thank you back to Restoring Hope Live on this great Monday, sponsored by the good folks down at Powell CDC. Back to our conversation with Geral Blanchard in just a minute. Don't forget, we are 3 weeks away, I think, 4 weeks away from the Screw Tape Letters. And that's going to be a Broadway-level play at C.Y. Stevens Auditorium in Ames on April 14th. That's a Tuesday night. I've seen this in Omaha about a year ago, and it'll blow you away. If you've read the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, if you're familiar with them, this play brings it alive. And it is so realistic that we really caution you to bring small children. And I think small is under 14. Unless you want to sit down and have a very long conversation about what this young person just saw. Watching how the accuser works and how C.S. Lewis painted him is just fascinating. And the man who plays the accuser is going to be on the radio with us. I believe it is this Wednesday. Max, M-A-C, that's me, M-A-X. Max will be live with us this Wednesday, 3 p.m., and he's got a great voice. He loves to do interviews, and he's just an amazing guy. If you haven't got your tickets yet, get them. Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, April 14th, C.Y. Stevens Auditorium in Ames.
Okay, and speaking of things coming up, the Powell Banquet is coming up Saturday,
26th?
God, now I've April 18th, I think.
I got it here.
Is that a Saturday?
Yeah, April 18th.
And you can buy tickets at Powell, and they're only $25. That's dinner and an auction, and we have a guest speaker from Hazleton.
Yeah.
William Moyers. It's going to be a good night.
Bill Moyers' son.
Yes.
The late Bill Moyers.
Yeah.
Not late.
Yeah, he's still living, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tardy, maybe, but
Tardy, but not late. Lila's got a great guest here with you today, and the next segment we want to talk a little about PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. You hear a lot of that about soldiers coming home and causing suicide and things like that, but you may have found somebody that's got a better way to treat it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's people that have been raped. It's just how people interpret things that were done to them. And I love Geral's take on this because people that have this feel like they're stuck with it, and it's like this black curtain over them for life, and they can't get out from under it. And Geral just has this, even what you call it is something different than most therapists do. So what do you call it?
okay. Well, there's something contrasting with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is what I call post-traumatic growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because truth is, most people who experience traumas not only recover from them, many of them bounce back, but a good number of them bounce forward. In other words, they don't just return to the previous state, they get better from being tested.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they are steeled by the experiences. We've overdone the advertising and marketing of post-traumatic stress disorder in this culture because we have a trauma industry here.
Yeah.
You can go to other cultures. Like I spent time with the Geral people in Peru, and they just can't wrap their minds around this idea of trauma and how a scary or frightening event in life can stay with you for years and years and years. But because our culture defines trauma as a long-lasting and enduring ailment, and we diagnose it so often, we look for it, therefore we find it, and it sticks with us.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful of cultural messages. Statistically, most traumatic experiences are not going to net or merit a diagnosis of PTSD. You are more inclined to bounce back and recover, but if you approach trauma in a real thoughtful way, you might experience post-traumatic growth. In other words, you thrive after the event.
Yeah.
And I'm studying those people who seem to thrive and what makes them different from the rest. And to really reduce it down and simplify it, what I found is that they seem to be what I call meaning makers. Meaning makers. They go through something difficult and challenging, and they milk it for all the wisdom and knowledge and growth opportunities they can. But they're usually surrounded by a fellowship of supportive people. Therapists are nice. I'm trained as a psychotherapist. We can be of support to people. But it's the relationships that people are involved in after trauma and how people stand by their side that's critical. And not everybody charges to be a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Those individuals who have a good support network and sort of call in the troops after a trauma bounce back more quickly. So
Now, don't you write something about in your book that if someone that's experienced one trauma can bounce back, and if you do 2 or 3, you can come back even stronger?
There is research out of England that showed that for people who underwent what was agreed upon as a severe trauma, they studied those people over time and found that after undergoing a severe trauma, people not only tend to bounce back, but they do very, very well. But then they looked at people who had undergone 2 severe traumas, and they did better than the former group.
Whoa.
Only to study people who had undergone 3 severe traumas, including near-death accidents and threats to their lives. The people who underwent 3 severe traumas did the best of the group.
Whoa. Yeah.
So what they were doing is learning from experience.
Mm-hmm.
They were becoming, in the business we use the word efficacious. In other words, they were more effective in dealing with difficult things that happen. And they extracted meaning from it.
Yeah.
And they became better people. But you don't make a lot of money off, as earlier I mentioned, the treatments we have that are natural for treating depression, anxiety. You don't make a lot of money off post-traumatic growth. It's almost too encouraging a message. but it is a factual message. Not many people who undergo trauma merit that PTSD diagnosis. But we have a movement afoot in our country, well-intentioned. It's called the trauma-informed movement, where we have to understand people, we say, in accordance with what they've undergone in their life. But there's a danger that if you tell your trauma story over and over and over, and the tragedies associated with it over and over and over, it becomes like a mantra of thousands of words. It's not just one word being repeated, but it's a story being repeated. So therapy, for so many of these individuals who result with my diagnosis of PTG, post-traumatic growth, are folks who have not only told their story of trauma in front of a receptive audience, an understanding audience, but then they crafted a new story of what they were going to do with it, and then a final story of what the actual outcome was. So they learn that the story isn't static and frozen.
Yes.
It's dynamic, it's organic, just like they are.
Yeah.
So when I was with the Geral people in the high Andes of Peru, they kept asking me, what is this trauma word all you people from the U.S. talk about? Trauma, trauma, trauma. And they gave me an example of how they respond to challenging events. They say, with our children, we like to expose them to death as early on as possible. So if a bird dies or a person dies, we want them close to that death, close to those animals or people that have died, so that we approach the biggest fear we can think of first in life. And everything else after that doesn't seem like as big a deal. So let's not hide tragedy and trauma from kids. Let's consciously expose them to it early on in a tender, attentive way so that they know that people know how to deal with this. Then the lesser things like a relationship breakup or an IRS audit in the high Andes won't be as difficult for them.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the mind, and how about the body? What are different ways that you see that people, especially with addictions, need to pay attention to their body? And I think we miss a lot of this in treatment anyway.
There's a faulty assumption, in my estimation, that all bodies are alike and all bodies respond to drugs and alcohol in the same way. And there's so much diversity in our bodies. The first thing we have to do when somebody enters chemical dependency treatment is to biotype them, to figure out which of the top 5 body biotypes are out there and which one they most closely have the symptoms of. Then when we know how their body responds to the toxicity of alcohol, how they have malabsorption, malnutrition, mineral excesses, toxic metals in their brain, cerebral allergies. When we realize all the unique things about their body's response to the thing they're addicted to, we're going to be able to tailor-make a much more effective treatment program for them, one that will complement their 12-step program. But it'll be highly nutritional in nature, and it will require them to get to know their body better and how to feed it better. You can't be an alcoholic and be nutritionally sound and solid. Alcohol makes you pee out of your system a lot of the essential B vitamins that you need, and alcoholics are notorious for eating poorly. And then when they get in recovery, they switch their addiction to coffee, rapidly assimilated carbohydrates, donuts, milk duds, things of that sort that just carry on the craving of the body.
I noticed you said milk duds.
I heard that too.
I know, that was on purpose.
I caught that.
'Cause I was an addict for milk duds.
Our gentleman that's with us today is Geral Blanchard. G as in God, E-R-A-L, last name B-L-A-N-C-H-A-R-D. He's got 3 books on the market: Ancient Ways, Ancient Ethics, and Transcending Trauma. Now, he is not, well, he is internationally known, but he lives and works here in Des Moines. And if there are someone listening out there who you think this is something that could help you, you can contact him at the Friends House at 42nd and Grand and set up an appointment and see if he can start to help you. Now, Bob, you're hearing his talk about taking all these natural things that are grown, measuring how alcohol impacts the bodies, and then how to treat that. Tell me where that sits with you as far as, 35 years of being a forensic scientist specialist in alcohol.
Well, mostly for me, I'm there to talk about the effects of alcohol in the body and to talk about retrograde extrapolation and all different scientific aspects of for court purposes when somebody is arrested. On the other hand, I agree with him totally on the natural aspect, the nutritional aspect. I experienced that with my father, who was an alcoholic and died of cancer at a young age, in my opinion, because of a lack of nutrition in his body, and developed cancer because there was nothing that his body could do to protect him from that cancer. Yeah. So that's absolutely correct. So I agree wholeheartedly with the holistic approach. I mean, it's not just one or two things. There are many things involved in the healing of the body. So I'm in
fellow
agreement.
by the name of Bill Wilson back in the 60s said, we're overlooking an important aspect in the recovery program of alcoholics. He said, we've got to look at their nutritional patterns and habits and their malnourishment. And he was studying with researchers in Saskatchewan, Canada, on this subject a long, long time ago. And the other thing that will dovetail with our later discussion is Bill Wilson also was talking about the importance of sort of mining information from psychedelics and entheogen medicines. Because, I don't know if you knew this about Bill W., but he, for 5 years, worked with Aldous Huxley and other researchers trying to figure out what is it that draws people to psychedelics, and is there something in there that might also be of assistance in treating people? Or is it all just black, white, good, and evil? More on that in a bit.
Yeah, thank you very much, Geral. And I'm not mispronouncing it for once. There's no D on the end of his name. It is G as in God, E-R-A-L. Blanchard, look him up, Google him, buy a book, and maybe set an appointment and see him yourself. He's at the Friend's House on 42nd and Grand. We're coming back live here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
All right, welcome back. We are live on RestoringHopeLive.com. Appreciate you being here. A ministry brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC. If you are in any kind of need, if you spent time with your little brother, who you haven't seen in years, over the weekend, and you found out that little brother smokes a little something or drinks a little too much or does something that he shouldn't do, and you're frantic, you're worried, you're wondering, what can you do? You now have a friend. 263-2424, that's area code 515. That is Powell CDC, one of this country's best known treatment centers, and their aftercare programs are exceptional. I would encourage you to look into Powell CDC. Our guest today is Geral Blanchard. He's written several books, but he's also on the tip of, you were talking about Bill W., and for those of you that don't know who Bill W. is the founder, one of the founders. Dr. Bob and Dr. Bill were two of the founders of the program that we now call the 12-Step program. And you were sharing, which I think is fascinating. He was way ahead of his time, even in the 60s when he was dealing with some of this stuff.
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. But we're now, I just listened to CBC Radio out of Canada this weekend, and they were talking about now finally following up on some of his tips and his insights.
Yeah.
It's taken that long.
Yeah, it's taken 40, 50 years. But you've also, is this your discovery, this treatment for heroin?
It's something I'm very much aware of.
Okay.
And I've been talking about quite a bit lately.
All right. I want you to share that with us, please.
Okay. Well, what I've done along the way is travel around the world, meeting with shamans and medicine people, and noting how they treat human maladies without a pharmacy nearby and a hospital nearby and a CD treatment center. And for people who have undergone powerfully painful experiences, maybe a rape, maybe some long-standing emotional abuse in the family or in a marriage, when tragedies have struck, they've oftentimes done ceremonies and rituals to help people bring them out of the grip of that event. Also, when some people more recently have become addicted to alcohol and other drugs, they've used a root product from West Africa that they dig up from the plant called iboga, I-B-O-G-A, iboga. And I was introduced to that in Zimbabwe in 2005, and I witnessed its use in helping people recover from major life tragedies. And it's almost as if they were trying to shift gears with that person into a new way of being, a new way of experiencing what had happened. Now what we're learning is that iboga is being synthesized into a drug called ibogaine, and it's being used in a couple countries where it's legal: Holland, Costa Rica, Canada, Mexico. And I just came back about 3 weeks ago from Vancouver, BC, and watched people who are heroin addicts and cocaine addicts swallowing the ground-up product of this root, the iboga root. Now, this is you'll want to research this. It's going to sound like I'm making things up as I go here. But within 35 minutes of ingesting ibogaine, the craving for cocaine and or heroin is gone.
Gone.
Over. Within 30 to 35 minutes. Within 18 hours, all withdrawal side effects of the heroin and cocaine are gone. Then after a day of sleep and a good meal, clients are sent on their way back home. Now, it seems too quick, too easy, too good to be true. But native people for years and years and years are saying this would be a proper use of it. Researchers out of Finland have shown that iboga, or ibogaine, the derivative of it, seems to block the opiate receptors of the brain. So if you could imagine receptors like a little funnel and you want to dump something down it and it's plugged up, it no longer goes in and does its thing. But ibogaine not only stops the effectiveness of the high, but it ends the cravings, and it gets rid of the withdrawal effects within grand total 18 hours.
You said cocaine and heroin. What
Right.
about marijuana? What about alcohol? Has there been any tests on that yet?
At Liberty Root in Vancouver, they are treating other addictions as well. What they claim, however, is that they're going to be most effective with the opiates.
Okay.
But they're doing it with other things, including traumatic events, including alcoholism.
Now, here's the challenge with this, and Bob mentioned it a little bit ago. You're up against big pharmaceutical companies that have billions and billions and billions of dollars at risk to allow you to continue this process. What can we do to help you beat off, push away these pharmaceutical companies so you're free to put this product in the market?
There is another problem, too, government. I mean, it's Schedule 1.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. There's no medicinal value according to our government. So that's another problem.
Okay, I don't understand. Why? Well, first of all, why is it Schedule 1?
It's been labeled that way by our government because we don't know much about it. We have mistaken it as a hallucinogen and put it into that category. This is a root. This is a plant medicine. That it doesn't cause hallucinations. It will cause someone to go deeply inward and review their life intensely over that 18 hours of flood ingestion, as we call it. So they'll look at, if you will, their sins, their shortcomings. It's like a massive fourth and fifth step that's going on during that time period. But when you come out of that experience, and it is not a hallucinogen, as the government would like us to believe, when we come out of that, or folks come out of it, they feel this incredible sense of unity and connectedness, almost like people in a near-death experience, or as Bill W. spoke about when he experimented with an actual psychedelic drug. This is different, but we've unfortunately put it in that category and made it illegal. If I were a drug company right now, and I couldn't capitalize on this, I'd want to make sure I kept this illegal and created as much fear around this as possible. But sooner or later, the truth will come out. We will learn that this isn't something that crazed drug addicts are using. We're treating heroin addiction right now with 3 medications, all of which are highly addictive.
Yeah, that's just crazy to
Go
me.
figure.
Yeah.
Right. Here, quit drinking Coke, but here's coffee. Oh, forget about the cigarettes. Here's the cigars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget about the heroin. Here's methadone.
Yeah.
And we have a couple other drugs we're using as well. So we trade addiction. We encourage people to addiction hop. And it's good for the addiction industry, just like some of what I was talking about with trauma treatment is good for the victim treatment industry. But money sometimes will determine and dictate what type of treatment we're going to use. So I want to get word out, like we're doing today, about iboga, I-B-O-G-A, or ibogaine, the derivative of it. It is legitimate. It is powerful. It's being studied in other countries. I've witnessed it being used in Vancouver, British Columbia. I went to the streets where homeless people were. I went to the heroin, they have a kind of like nurses station downtown where heroin addicts can go in and get free government heroin and clean needles to save lives, and then they guide them to this kind of treatment. But they have a place where they can monitor their health. They don't push it on people, but they let them know that there is this kind of treatment available, and it's short term. As long as you could expect to stay there for treatment, would be about 8 days.
I loved what you said one time, that somebody that you know took it and then told you that it didn't work.
Yeah. I referred a cocaine addict to treatment, and I told him this will take care of your cravings, your withdrawal, and the like. And he no sooner got out of the treatment, and he went out in the street and bought some cocaine. Now, he didn't have cravings, but he was so used to that habit, he felt he needed to have some with him, and, well, now I've got it, I may as well snort it. And he did, and he had no reaction. His conclusion, bad drug dealer. So he went and bought some more, tried it again, no result. He said, cocaine isn't working on me anymore. he said, I think I would be wasting money buying more.
So it works. All right.
It works.
When Geral, when Geral comes back, let's talk about trauma again and talk about some of the things that he might be able to help you with. That's live here today on RestoringHopeLive.com.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation, to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue. I want to pass things over to Lila again as we get to another very important part of Geral Blanchard's studies, and that is in the... we'll go ahead and take it.
Okay, so we've talked about the body and the mind in healing people, and so I want to go to the spirit, and you have always said that you can't be spiritual and addicted at the same time. I love that. Explain what you mean.
Well, first of all, I stole that line from Charlotte Castle out of Montana.
Okay.
She's a specialist in treating sexual addiction, as I also had a history in working in that area. But she said you can't be spiritual and addicted at the same time. Now, that's in addition to maybe having a religion that you practice. This is on top of that, where we spend time with people developing meaning and purpose in their life, where we help them develop their ethics, their values, and personalize them. So they may come from a religious template, but now it's application time.
Yes.
And so we help them develop their own personally tailored belief system that they can buy into because they had a part in crafting it.
I want to ask a question here. Do you remember when I came up with that Macism about a year ago? And nobody could figure out whether it was right or not. And I think this either proves I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm not sure which. But the Macism was the dictionary is the only place where salvation comes before sobriety. Mm-hmm. And my theory on that was that you cannot have salvation in Christ or whatever your higher power is. It's Jesus for me if you're a drunk. Well, you have to have that mind clear to accept that.
Some of the people who develop a recovery program borrow from Buddhist tradition and say they concern themselves with right thinking. That's one of the 8 steps on the Buddhist eightfold path. Well, what do they mean by that? Well, I think of in language of recovery, we talk about stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Where you're just not thinking straight. Or if you ever listen to Car Talk on public radio, here's an advertisement for another one. They have a motto, Tommy, who just passed away from that program. He said, if you don't think too good try not to think too much.
Yeah.
And so we have to re-examine our thinking and have it challenged. So the first demon we have to slay in recovery are demons of our own making, the lies we've told ourselves. You know, and sometimes people will admit lying to themselves before they'll admit in a fourth or fifth step work how they've lied to others. So that's part of that spirituality. But I define spirituality in its simplest form as purposeful belonging. I'm a member of the human Homo sapiens. I'm a member of the human race. I have an obligation to show reciprocity, care, and concern for all other living creatures. I have to have purpose and meaning and fellowship with others. If I isolate, I'm in dangerous company, all alone. If I'm connected with others and we share common, uplifting values and do good for the world, that will heal us. It takes me back to St. Francis, who said, you know, it's in giving that we receive. It's in consoling that we are consoled. So there's that beautiful reciprocity that is the antithesis of addiction. Addiction is all about selfishness, about me, me, me. Spirituality is about giving, not with the expectation that I will receive back, but it just happens to work that way. So we always try and channel people into spiritual development, spiritual readings, so they can craft a recovery plan that has some value that they can really buy into because they helped craft it. So it's not just something imposed on them by a therapist or by a minister. In addition to what they're getting from treatment and from their church, then they adapt it into language that makes it meaningful to them. And when they do that hard work of mentally processing that information, it's more inclined to stick.
Is there a time period? Because it seems to me like a lot of addicts are so into themselves that they can't even think about helping somebody else. So is there a time period that they have to work on themselves first before you can give them that kind of...
Particularly if they're narcissistic.
Yeah.
I think one of the mistakes we make with people who are real self-absorbed is we want to teach them how to understand and show empathy toward others. Good luck with that. Where they're going to get it is by applying it in their own life first. So if we talk about their trauma, their upbringing, we help show them how they've been hurt by other people, and then they get it. It's at that point they can extrapolate from that and go out and imagine how they've hurt their family members. So I'll indulge them in that self-centered talk for quite some time, knowing where I'm going to lead them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our guest today is Geral, G as in God, E-R-A-L, no D. For once, I'm not pronouncing it wrong. Geral, last name Blanchard, B-L-A-N-C-H-A-R-D. 3 books you might want to consider checking out. Ancient Ways and Ancient Ethics. Now, that's 2 different books. And The Transcending of Trauma. Can someone 80 years old be... and I don't want to use the word cured, but can a trauma that happened to them when they're 15, 16 years old be wiped away when they're 80?
Yes. Here's the rule of thumb I operate under. If it took you a lot of years to develop your trauma story and come to buy into it fully and completely, it takes far less time to unlearn it.
Okay.
You know, you learned how to talk your story of trauma for a lot of years. How to unlearn it happens faster. But there has to be that motivation to let go of it. Some people only want to be known by their story and the pain they experienced. And we have to dangle in front of them the option that there could be a new story. Even if they just make it up at first, even the experience of making up a fictitious story of their own recovery plays with their brain. They're having now to go there and imagine more positive outcomes. And when you do that with someone for maybe a half hour and guide them through this fictitious restoring experience, and then ask them, how are you feeling right now? They go, I'm feeling pretty good.
You know, it's funny you should say that because on the wall in my office is an 8.5 by 11 white sheet of paper in which I printed from my printer, I've got a new story.
Ooh.
And that was the beginning of my treatments and everything else about 8 to 10 years ago. And the next sheet I put up was I've got a new story, and it's up to me. So, well, it's been fascinating having you here. And I appreciate you coming in. I hope you choose to come back sometime. You're always welcome. And Lila, did you get everything asked that you want to get asked?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, but we have, there's more
I can
we
think
could.
of a million other things.
Okay,
So-
well, maybe we'll talk about that and give Geral an opportunity to come back. Bob, thanks for being here. Ryan, thanks for producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you. So, who haven't you forgiven yet? I know. You knew I was going to ask this. But there's somebody in your life you're carrying a resentment. You carry it very pridefully because you deserve to have that resentment for what they did to you. Today, lie it on the ground, say goodbye to it, and ask for forgiveness, and that forgiveness you will receive. We'll see you tomorrow.